Hello and welcome to this episode of Drishti Today's GK. In this segment, we bring to you questions for prelims practice. Let's begin with yesterday's question. The question was, consider the following statements. Diammonium phosphate or DAP is the most commonly used fertilizer in India. Second statement, DAP is high in phosphorus that stimulates root development. Third, farmers normally apply DAP fertilizer just before or at the beginning of sowing. Now, first thing, it is not the most commonly used fertilizer. Basically, urea is the most commonly used fertilizer. So, this statement is wrong. Yes, it is high in phosphorus as is evident from the name. So, this statement is correct and it stimulates root development. Also, it is applied just before or at the beginning of the sowing. So, basically, first statement is wrong and 2 and 3 are correct. So, the answer for this question is option B. Let us look at the explanation. Recently, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, that is CCEA, has approved the proposal of Department of Fertilizers for fixation of nutrient-based subsidy rates for phosphatic and potash fertilizers for the year 2021-22. DAP is the second most commonly used fertilizer in India after urea. Hence, statement 1 is incorrect. Farmers normally apply this fertilizer just before or at the beginning of sowing as it is high in phosphorus that stimulates root development. Hence, statements 2 and 3 are correct. Let us move on to the first question of today's episode. Consider the following statements. The International Energy Agency, IEA, is an autonomous intergovernmental organization established in 1974 in Geneva. India is a member of the International Energy Agency. Third, the World Energy Outlook Report is released by IEA annually. Now, while the IEA is a very important agency, it is not headquartered like several other important agencies in Geneva, Switzerland. It is headquartered at Paris in France. Is India a member of the International Agency? No, India is only an associate member. So, this statement is also wrong, like the first one. Now, World Energy Outlook Report. It is the flagship report of the IEA. It is released annually. So, based on this information, we can see that 1 and 2 are wrong and only the third statement is correct. Hence, the answer is C. Let us have a look at the explanation. Recently, the International Energy Agency IEA warned that the world's clean energy transition is too slow. Investment in renewable energy will need to triple by the end of this decade if the world's climate pledges are to be met. The International Energy Agency is an autonomous intergovernmental organization established in 1974 in Paris, France. Hence, statement 1 is incorrect. India became an associate member of IEA in March 2017. Hence, statement 2 is also incorrect. It is stated that India is already a full-time member. So, that was incorrect. And World Energy Outlook Report is released by IEA annually. We mentioned it's a flagship report. So, statement 3 is correct. Consider the following statements. 1. The hornbills, Bucerotidae, are a family of birds found in tropical and subtropical Africa and Asia. 2. The great hornbill is the state bird of Tamil Nadu and Nagaland. 3. The Hornbill Festival celebrated in Nagaland is named after the bird hornbill, which is the most revered and admired bird for the Nagas. Now, while we know that the distribution of hornbills, the information regarding the distribution is correct, but it is not the state bird of Tamil Nadu and Nagaland. Instead, it is the state bird of Arunachal Pradesh and Kerala. So, this statement is incorrect, and that a festival is celebrated in Nagaland which is named after this bird. This is also the correct information. So, only statement 2 is not correct. Hence, answer is option B, 1 and 3 only. Let us look at the explanation. Recently, scientists from 2 organizations studied how fruiting plants and hornbills influenced each other's distribution in the Namdapha Tiger Reserve. The hornbills, Bucerotidae, are a family of birds found in tropical and subtropical Africa and Asia. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The great hornbill is the state bird of Arunachal Pradesh and Kerala. Hence, statement 2 was incorrect. And the Hornbill Festival celebrated in Nagaland is named after the bird hornbill, which is the most revered and admired bird for the Nagas. Hence, statement 3 is also correct. Moving on to the next question, consider the following statements. Statement 1. Conference of the Parties (COP) is the apex decision-making authority of the Worldwide Fund for Nature (WWF). 2. The first COP meeting was held in Paris, France in March 1995. 3. COP was postponed in 2020 and will take place in Glasgow, UK in November 2021. So, COP is the apex decision-making authority, yes, but not of Worldwide Fund for Nature, but of United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change, UNFCCC. So, statement 1 is not correct. Again, the first COP meeting took place in March 1995, but not in Paris, France, but Berlin, Germany. So, statement 2 is also incorrect. This is true that COP26 was postponed in 2020 due to COVID pandemic, and it will take place in Glasgow in the upcoming month of November 2021. So based on this information, we can say 1 and 2 are not correct and only 3 is correct. Hence, the answer is option D. Let us have a look at the explanation. Countries party to the Paris Agreement, particularly the group of 20 countries, G20 countries, need to urgently focus on climate actions. Ministers from 46 least developing countries, LDCs, is stressed ahead of the 26th COP. COP is the apex decision-making authority of UNFCCC. Hence, statement 1 is incorrect. The first COP meeting was held in Berlin, Germany and not in France in March 1995. Hence, statement 2 is also incorrect, while COP26 was postponed in 2020 and will take place in Glasgow, UK in November 21. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Moving on to the next question, consider the following statements. 1. The NGT is a statutory body. 2. The NGT also contains non-judicial members. 3. The NGT is mandated to dispose of applications or appeals finally within 6 months of filing the same. We have to tell which of these statements are correct. Now, NGT is indeed a statutory body established under a Parliamentary Act. Out of the 20 members, at least 10 members should be non-judicial members. So, this statement is also correct. And it is mandated to fulfill or to dispose of applications within 6 months of the appeal with which they have been filed. So, all of these 3 statements are correct and hence the answer would be option D, 1, 2 and 3. Let us have a look at the explanation. Recently, the Supreme Court has declared the National Green Tribunal position as a unique forum endowed with suo motu, that is, on its own motion, powers to take up environmental issues across the country. The National Green Tribunal Act is a statutory body set up under the National Green Tribunal Act 2010 for effective and expeditious disposal of cases relating to environmental protection and conservation of forests and other natural resources. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The NGT Act 2010 prescribes that the tribunal shall consist of a full-time chairperson and not less than 10 judicial and 10 expert members, but subject to a maximum of 20 full-time judicial and expert members. Hence, statement 2 is correct. NGT is mandated to dispose of applications or appeals finally within 6 months of filing the same. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Let us move on to the next question. Consider the following statements. An intermediate black hole is formed by the merger of 2 black holes. Statement 2. Gravitational waves are created when 2 black holes orbit each other and merge. Now, this is a detailed question about black holes, how black holes are formed. We know that black holes are entities in which the gravity is so high that even light waves can't escape it, and an intermediate black hole is formed by the merger of 2 black holes. So, this statement is correct. And gravitational waves, which have been in use for last few years, gravitational waves are created when 2 black holes orbit each other and merge. So, indeed, both statements are correct and hence, answer is not both 1 and 2 because the question is which of them are incorrect. Since both of them are correct, the answer would be option D. Let us have a look at the explanation. Scientists from Chennai Mathematical Institute and others have analyzed that data from the LIGO Virgo observatories and estimated the fraction of the binary black hole mergers detected so far that show potential to form intermediate mass black holes. Merging of two or more black holes result in different types of black holes, for example, intermediate mass black holes and binary black holes. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Gravitational waves are created when two black holes orbit each other and merge. Hence, statement 2 is also correct. Moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with respect to flower scorpionfish. 1. It is found only in the Pacific Ocean. 2. The species was discovered in the Pacific Ocean of Japan almost a century ago. Now, it was suspected that flower scorpionfish is found only in the Pacific Ocean. Till recently, it was pointed out that this is not the case, and the species was discovered in the Pacific Ocean of Japan, and that is why it was thought that for almost 100 years it was thought that it is only found in Pacific Ocean. So statement 2 is correct, that it was discovered off the coast of Japan almost a century ago, but statement 1 is not correct. We have to choose which of the statements are correct. So answer would be option B. Let us have a look at the explanation. According to a research paper, flower scorpionfish that was till now thought to be found only in Pacific Ocean has been found in the Indian Ocean too. Hence, statement 1 is incorrect. The research paper was published in Thalasus and International Journal of Marine Sciences. Hoplosylvestis armatus, also known as the flower scorpionfish, belongs to the order of ray-finned fish that are also known as Scorpioniformes. The flower scorpionfish was discovered in the Pacific Ocean of Japan almost a century ago in 1929. Hence, statement 2 is correct. It has now been found in Digha, West Bengal and Paradeep in Odisha. Moving on to the next question, India's One Health Consortium has been launched by which of the following ministries? Now the options are Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Ministry of Ayush, Ministry of Tribal Affairs and Ministry of Science and Technology. So it is quite an integrated kind of scheme, an integrated kind of thought process which is guiding One Health Consortium, and it has been launched by Ministry of Science and Technology. So option D is the right answer. Let us have a look at the explanation. India's first One Health Consortium has been launched by the Department of Biotechnology under Ministry of Science and Technology. Hence option D is correct. Under this program, surveillance of important bacterial, viral and parasitic infections of zoonotic as well as transboundary pathogens in India will be carried out. The consortium consists of 27 organizations led by DBT, National Institute of Animal Biotechnology, Hyderabad. Concept of One Health recognizes that man, animal, plants and environment are needed to be considered complementary to each other for maintaining the health of all. One Health is an approach which recognizes that the health of people is closely connected to the health of animals and our shared environment. Moving on to the next question, consider the following statements regarding National Financial Reporting Authority (NFRA). It was constituted in 2001 under Section 132, Subclause 1 of the Companies Act 2013. 2. The Companies Act requires the NFRA to have a chairperson who will be appointed by the central government and a maximum of 15 members. So let us have a look at the options. NFRA, it was constituted in 2018 and not in 2001 under the Companies Act 2013. So this statement is incorrect, and it requires to have a chairperson who will be appointed by central government and it will have a maximum of 15 members. So this statement is correct. Since only statement 2 is correct, we can have a look at the options that only statement 2 is correct. Hence option B is the answer. Let us have a look at the explanation. NFRA was constituted on 1st October 2018 under Section 132, Subclause 1 of the Companies Act 2013. Hence statement 1 is incorrect. The composition of NFRA is that the Companies Act requires the NFRA to have a chairperson who will be appointed by the central government and a maximum of 15 members. Hence statement 2 is correct. The function and duties of an NFRA, it is to recommend accounting and auditing policies and standards to be adopted by companies for approval by the central government, monitor and enforce compliance with accounting standards and auditing standards, etc. Moving on to the next question, consider the following statements regarding RTI. 1. This act was enacted in order to consolidate the fundamental right in the Indian Constitution, freedom of speech. 2. Since RTI is implicit in the right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, it is an implied fundamental right. Statement 3. It replaced the former Freedom of Information Act 2002. So, let us have a look at the statements. The RTI, it was enacted in order to consolidate the freedom of speech, which is mentioned under Article 19. It is said that RTI is implicit in the right to freedom of speech and expression mentioned under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. So, it is an implied fundamental right, and after it came, there was no need for Freedom of Information Act 2002, so it replaced in effect the Freedom of Information Act in 2002. So, all of these statements are correct, hence answer is option D. Let us have a look at the explanation. First, about the RTI Act 2005, it sets out the rules and procedures regarding citizens' right to information. It replaced the former Freedom of Information Act 2002, hence statement 3 is correct. This act was enacted in order to consolidate the fundamental right in Indian Constitution, freedom of speech, hence statement 1 is correct. Since RTI is implicit in the right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 of the Constitution, it is an implied fundamental right. Hence, statement 2 is also correct. Moving on to the next question, consider the following statements regarding input tax credit. 1. It is the tax that a business pays on purchase and that it can use to reduce its tax liability when it makes a sale. 2. A business under a composition scheme cannot avail of the input tax credit. ITC cannot be claimed for personal use or for goods that are exempt. Let us have a look at the options, at the statements. So, input tax credit was in news, especially after the GST has been introduced, and it is a tax which the business pays on a purchase, and it can use it to reduce its tax liability when it makes a sale. So, this statement regarding its definition is correct, and a business under the composition scheme cannot avail the input tax credit, nor can it be claimed for personal use or goods that are already exempt from GST. So, statement 2 is also correct. Since both of these statements are correct, the answer would be option C, both 1 and 2. Let us have a look at the explanation. It is the tax that a business pays on purchase and that it can use to reduce its tax liability when it makes a sale. Hence, statement 1 is correct. In simple terms, input credit means at the time of paying tax on output, you can reduce the tax you have already paid on inputs and pay the balance amount. Exceptions are that a business under composition scheme cannot avail of the input tax credit. ITC cannot also be claimed for personal use or for goods that are already exempt. Hence, statement 2 was also correct. Moving on further, this is a practice question for the next episode. Consider the following statements with respect to quantum key distribution, QKD. 1. QKD provides a way of distributing and sharing secret keys that are necessary for cryptographic protocols. 2. In QKD, encryption keys are sent as quantum bits in an optical fiber. 3. The encryption in QKD will be unbreakable because the data is carried by electrons and it cannot be perfectly copied. You have to tell which of the following statements are correct. You can pause the video and have a look at the question. Post the answer to this question in the comment section below. In the next episode, we will give you the answer and we will have more questions for you to practice. See you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.